maybe I think fourth week.
Okay, I will check.
Video was not properly audible,
Okay.
and the background also somewhat blurry is there. You can verify that video. If possible, you can edit that video, madam.
Okay. My screen is visible.
Yeah, visible, madam.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Khushbu. I'm your PMRF TA for the course Introductory Organic Chemistry 1. The course instructor for this course are Professor Nija Dashaputre and Professor Harinath Chakrapani from ISER Pune. So, let us discuss about the topics that they discussed during this week, and then we will go for the assignment questions. So, when a chemical reaction will takes place, that we have to study. Now, objective of this class is to discuss about the reactivity in terms of charges, orbitals, and the detailed movement of electrons. What type of arrows we are using in any kind of reaction, how the orbital interaction or interaction of the some charged species leads to the formation of chemical reaction, that we are going to discuss today. So, charge attraction brings molecule together. For any chemical reaction to take place, molecules should come close to each other, collide with each other at a particular angle, so that the collision between them results in the formation of the chemical reaction or bond between them. So, a common cause of organic reaction is attraction between a charged reagent and a organic compound that possesses a dipole. For example, if we are considering this carbonyl carbon here, so we already know that carbon is attached with oxygen, and oxygen, being electronegative in nature, pulls electron density towards itself and hence acquire a negative charge. So, as electron density is moving towards oxygen, so the carbon will acquire a partial positive charge. So the because of the generation of this dipole, any nucleophile can approach this carbonyl carbon. So for example, if we have cyanide having carbon negative charge on the carbon, so this negative charge will attack on the positively charged carbonyl carbon, and then as carbon cannot form more than four bonds, so one of the bond will break towards the oxygen. So, because of the charge interaction, because of the attraction between this charged ion and this dipole that is present in the carbonyl system, this kind of these molecules are coming together and reacting with each other. Similarly, if we have water, in that case, it is reacting with carbonyl. How it is reacting? Now, water is not a charged species, but it has lone pair of electrons, and the oxygen, being electronegative in nature, pulls more electron density towards itself, and it is going to participate in the reaction with the help of the lone pair that is present in the non-bonding orbital. So, in case of water, these lone pair will participate in the chemical reaction. So, what are the causes that can lead to the formation of chemical reaction or chemical bond between the molecules? First is attraction between a charged reagent and a dipole. For example, in the case of formaldehyde and cyanide, as we saw. And second is when a compound or a species that contains lone pair of electron will interact with a dipole species, then also attraction between them make the chemical reaction happen. Then the second thing is, if charge attraction is not the cause, so what can be the other cause for any chemical reaction to take place? So the other cause is orbital overlap also brings molecule together. Reaction can take place between completely uncharged molecule.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Ma'am, can you speak in Hindi?
Hindi. Uh, are everybody is fine with Hindi? There are people that are not able to understand Hindi, so better to use English only. Is this fine for you?
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Okay. So because of the orbital overlap, now the second cause for the attraction of the molecules is the orbital overlap. So if we have completely uncharged molecule also with no dipole, that those kind of molecules will also participate in chemical reactions. One example is when we do test for unsaturation, then we are treating our alkene with bromine water. If the brown color of the bromine or the solution disappeared, then we say that the compound or the molecule was unsaturated. Now, in this case, alkene is not charged. Alkene does not have any dipole. Bromine has some dipole, but it comes in the presence of some electron source. So here, alkene reacts with bromine, even though alkene and bromine have neither charge nor dipole. But the attraction between them is electrostatic. When an alkene approaches a bromine molecule, then because of the attraction of the pi electrons towards one of the bromine atom, dipole is created in this molecule. Or we can say the pi orbital of the alkene interact with the sigma star orbital of bromine, and because of this uh, over, overlap of the orbitals, this kind of attraction is taking place or reaction is taking place. Are they both causes clear to you, that because of charge species attraction can take place, or because of orbitals overlap molecules can come together? Understandable? Okay, let's move further. So now, as we know that attraction or orbital overlap can bring molecules together, now how we will represent that reaction? So reaction happens when electrons flow between molecules. And if electrons are flowing, then there must be a electron source that contain those electrons, and there must be a electron accepting species that can accept the electrons. So here comes a bond forms when the electrons move from a nucleophile to an electrophile. We will discuss about electrophiles and nucleophiles. So from nucleophile, nucleophiles are electron rich species, and electrophiles are electron loving species or electron deficient species. So a donor that is having electrons can donate a pair of electron to the species that wants electron. So movement of electron will takes place from the nucleophile towards the electrophile. So nucleophile is the species that donates electron, and electrophile is the species that accept electrons. Now, let us consider some examples here. So, if we have a chloride ion in our solution, and we have H positive protons in the solution. So, chloride, its octet is complete, having lone pair of electrons in the non bonding orbital. It can donate its electron pair to the positively charged proton. Okay, and hydrogen here does not have any electrons, so it has tendency to accept the two electrons and stabilize its octet. uh, this So because of that, electrostatic attraction will takes place between the chloride ion and the proton. Now once this attraction is taking place, so then bond will form, ionic bond will form. Now how we will show the movement of electrons? So electrons will move from the chlorine towards the proton. So this is the type of curly arrows we will show, we will use to represent a chemical reaction. And what does this arrow represents? It represents the movement of electrons. Movement of electrons from electron rich species towards the electron deficient species. And whenever we are using a curly arrow, that is the two-headed arrow, represents the movement of two electrons. So this tail will be towards electron donor species, or if lone pairs are there, then towards from the lone pair we will make this arrow, and this head will go towards the electron deficient species or electron acceptor. Okay, so for representing the formation of new bond by the movement of electrons, we will use some arrows, and we call them as curly arrows. One another example is if we have ammonia and we have borane. So as we know, ammonia, nitrogen and hydrogen both have filled octet, and nitrogen has a lone pair, or nitrogen contains a lone pair of electron. Now in case of boron, boron is having 6 electron and a empty p orbital. So nitrogen from ammonia can donate its lone pair to this empty orbital and help in completing the octet of borane. So we can show the movement of electrons toward using this curly arrows, and then in this case, as both the electrons are provided by nitrogen in the bond formation, so we will call this as dative bond or coordinate bond. A bond in a sigma bond in which both the electrons are shared by one of the atom only. We will call it as dative bond or coordination bond. Previously, we used to represent coordinate bond by an arrow from the atom that is donating the electron and towards the atom that is accepting the electron. But now we are not representing it in this way, because coordinate bond, once the electrons are shared, this is just like a sigma bond only. So we can donate the charges that nitrogen is involved, giving two electrons in the bond, so it is having a positive charge, and boron is accepting the electron, so that's why it is has a negative charge. So using these curly arrows, we can represent the movement of electrons from the donor atom towards the acceptor atom. Clear? Any doubt? Okay, let's move further. Now, orbital overlap is essential for the successful reaction. How we are explaining this? In the case of this ammonia and borane example, as we know that there is some attraction because of the lone pair of electrons on the nitrogen that is going to participate in the bond formation with the borane, and the other aspect that we have to keep in mind is the orbital overlap. Now, when ammonia and boron will collide with each other, then the molecule will form only if their orientation is, or the orbital, when they are colliding, the orbital orientation is correct, as in this case. So molecules have to collide with enough energy so that they will cross that activation energy barrier to form the molecule, but they will also collide with orbitals aligned correctly for them to interact. For example, if will ammonia having lone pair of electrons in the non-bonding orbital overlap with empty p orbital of boron, if the orbitals are overlapping head on, then we can say that bond is forming. But if lone pair of ammonia will not aligned in a particular direction, it can attack boron or collide boron from other directions also. But these kind of collisions will not result into any reaction or any bond. But when the alignment was perfect, then only the bond will form. So for a reaction to takes place or for a bond formation to takes place, both energy and alignment of orbital is needed. So we discussed that charged species or attraction between the charged and the dipole results in the formation of the chemical reaction. Then if orbital overlap is there, then also chemical reaction is possible. Energy of the collision should be large enough that it will cross the activation energy barrier, and collision should be in the perfect alignment for a chemical reaction to take place. So how chemical reaction will takes place? What are the factors that will govern the chemical reaction? Is this clear? Any doubt in this?
No, madam.
Okay. So let us discuss about nucleophiles and electrophiles now. So generally, this filled orbitals tend to be lower in energy, and the empty orbitals tend to be high in energy. So if we draw the energy profile diagram for an electrophile and the nucleophile, so whatever the filled orbitals are there in electrophile, we are not going to consider that, because electrophile is the species that is going to accept the electron. So we will consider its LUMO, that is the lowest unoccupied molecular orbital. So electrophile must have a LUMO that is lower in energy, lowest in energy. It has other orbitals also that are empty, but we are concerned with the orbital that is having lowest energy and it is unoccupied. Similarly, in case of nucleophile, we want a highest occupied molecular orbital, so that the energy gap between the electrophile and the nucleophile is minimum, and the this transfer of electrons is possible or is feasible. So nucleophile, in case of nucleophile also, other filled orbitals we are not concerned with. We are concerned with the orbital that is filled and having highest energy, and we called it as HOMO. And for electrophile, it is LUMO. So the best nucleophile is that species having the higher energy occupied molecular orbital, that means it's HOMO, and best electrophile have lower energy unoccupied molecular orbital, that is LUMO. So on the basis of this discussion that nucleophile should have a high energy HOMO and electrophile should have a lower energy LUMO, let us discuss about nucleophile and more about electrophiles. So nucleophiles are either negatively charged species or neutral species that having a pair of electrons in high energy orbital, or we can say HOMO. So they are negatively charged or negatively charged species or neutral species, but it should have a lone pair of electron in its HOMO. The most common example is, or most common example of nucleophile has a non-bonding lone pair of electrons. For example, in case of ammonia, amines, water, alcohol, these all species have a lone pair of electron on the nitrogen and a two lone pair of electrons on the oxygen. So they are acting as nucleophile on, they are acting as they are acting as electron donor and will participate in donation through these lone pair of electrons. So if we want to push the arrow from a electron donor species, then we will move the arrow or representing or keeping the tail at the lone pair and moving it towards the electrophilic species. Okay, and other atoms also. So in this case, in the case of ammonia, amine, water, and alcohol, HOMO is your non-bonding sp3 orbital in all the cases. Then other nucleophiles that are possible is phosphines, thiols, sulfides that can act as nucleophile, and they have lone pair of electrons in 3s or 3p atomic orbitals. So this trimethyl phosphine, thiophenol, dimethyl sulfide having phosphorus one electron pair and sulfur two lone pairs, which can participate in donation of electrons or which can act as nucleophile. Now these all are the neutral species that have lone pair of electron. Now anions can also act as nucleophile that having negative charge. So anions which have lone pair can act as a nucleophile because they because they can be attracted towards the positively charged electrophile, and the anions that are possible with oxygen, sulfur, halogens can act as this nucleophile. For example, in the case of hydroxide ion, we have oxygen that contains lone pair of electron and a negative charge on it. Similarly, bromide ion, and other example is cyanide ion. In case of cyanide, carbon having negative charge on the sp hybridized carbon. Nitrogen has lone pair of electron, but carbon being less electronegative in nature will donate its electron more easily than the nitrogen and hence participate in the reaction. So in case of cyanide, your HOMO is sp lone pair on carbon atom, not on nitrogen atom. Then the nucleophiles can be alkenes also, where double bond or pi, this carbon carbon double bond was there. So this pi electrons can act as, or pi bond can act as electron donating species to react with any electrophile that is that wants electron. So nucleophile donate electrons from available higher energy orbitals represented by one of the following. It can be through the lone pair, it can be through the negative charge, through the double bond, or through a sigma bond, where your sigma bond is formed between a carbon and a metal species. Because when sigma bond is formed between carbon and metal species, then metal being positively charged push the electron density towards the carbon, and carbon is electron rich in that case. For example, in the case of your lithiated species, or in the case of Grignard reagent, here also negative charge is on carbon and positive charge is on magnesium. So it can also participate in electron donation. So nucleophile can be negatively charged species, neutral species having lone pair of electrons. It can be a double bond, or nucleophiles can participate through sigma bond in the case of metal hydride, metal carbon species. Everything is clear about nucleophile? Any doubt?
Yes, yes, ma'am. No doubt, madam.
Okay, okay. Then let us discuss about electrophiles. So electrophiles are those species just opposite of your nucleophile. Electrophiles are can be neutral or positively charged species, but it should have an empty orbital in which it will accept the electron. For example, in the case of boron we discussed, it has an empty p orbital. Or electrophiles can be a species that have a lower energy anti-bonding orbital in which it can easily accept electrons. So the most common electrophile is your hydrogen cation, which we called it as proton. So proton is H positive ion and is present in water or in acids. everywhere. So if we have water or hydroxide ion, then that hydroxide ion will abstract proton, leading to the formation of water. Now, water also, oxygen has lone pair of electrons, and it can further act as a nucleophile and abstract the proton in the water and leads to the formation of this hydronium ion, which will act as the proton donor species. So, your most simple electrophile is proton, hydrogen having no electrons in its valence shell. Then the other examples of electrophile are borane, that contain an empty atomic orbital, and related such compounds are boron trifluoride or aluminium trichloride. So in this case, in case of boron trifluoride or aluminium trichloride, LUMO is your empty p orbital that will accept the electrons from any nucleophile. In general, boron will react with ethers, for example in this case diethyl ether, having lone pair of electrons on the oxygen. So these oxygen will attack the p orbital of the boron and form a bond, new sigma bond. In this case also, this bond is coordination bond or dative bond. Why we are calling it dative bond or coordination bond? Because both the electrons in the formation of sigma bond are provided by one of the atom, not shared by both of the atom. If both atoms share one electron, then we will call it as sigma bond. But because in the formation of sigma bond both the electrons are provided by one of the atom, so this type of bond we will call it as coordination bond. So this, after the acceptance of electron from the oxygen lone pair, and the species formed is boron trifluoride etherate. And for using this complex in a lab also, it is provided in this mixture only. Then few organic compounds that having vacant atomic orbitals like pi star orbital or sigma star orbital can also act as this electrophile. For example, in the case of your carbonyl carbon, we have a carbon that is positively charged and we have a oxygen that is having partial negative charge. Now, in the case of sodium borohydride or potassium borohydride, your boron hydrogen bond, sigma bond, will participate in this case as the nucleophile, and it will attack the electrophilic carbonyl carbon and leads to the formation of borane and your alcohol or alkoxide ion in this case. So here the first arrow shows the movement of electrons from the boron hydrogen bond. Boron is showing negative charge, but boron will not participate, or negative charge will not participate in this reaction. Instead, boron hydrogen sigma electrons are participating in the reaction. So arrows, we should not move from the negative charge, but we should move from the sigma bond that is participating in the reaction. So the first arrow shows the movement of electron from the sigma bond towards the carbon, positively charged carbonyl carbon, and then the second arrow moves the electron from pi bond towards the oxygen. Now why is so? Because carbon can't be pentavalent, so as one bond is forming with hydrogen, so the other pi bond should be cleaved. So this is the case. Similarly, if we have ammonia and we are treating it with acid, so ammonia having lone pair of electrons on the nitrogen will participate in abstracting the proton from the HCl. So we will move the electrons from lone pair of nitrogen towards the proton, and then as hydrogen also can form only single bond, can't form two bond, so the previously formed bond should be cleaved. So the electrons will move towards the more electronegative atom in the bond or in the compound, that is chlorine. So it leads to the formation of ammonium ion and your chloride ion. Then sigma bonds are also electrophilic. For example, in the case of iodine, bromine, chlorine, when any nucleophilic species will approach these kind of halides, then the dipole is created, and one of the halogen atom will act as the electrophile and other will act as the nucleophile. So these can also be act as electrophile and nucleophile. Now, why is this case different from the carbon carbon bond? Carbon carbon bond can't induce such kind of polarity and does not participate in the reaction, in such type of reactions. It also has sigma star molecular orbital that can act as a electrophilic species. But why is that so? Because in the case of bromine bromine sigma orbital, the energy gap between the HOMO and LUMO is less. But in case of carbon carbon sigma orbital, the energy gap between your HOMO and LUMO is very large. So because of the like this large energy gap, carbon carbon bond can't participate in such kind of reactions, but bromine can participate or halides can participate. So bromine can react with many nucleophiles, for example dimethyl sulfide. Now in the case of dimethyl sulfide, sulfur having lone pair of electrons will attack one of the bromine atom, and then bromine bromine bond will cleave. So it leads to the formation of new sigma bond between the sulfur and the bromine, and bromide ion will release. So to summarize, electrophiles can be a positively charged atom representing an empty orbital. It can be a neutral species that has an empty p orbital. It can be a double bond to a electronegative element, or it can be a single bond to a electronegative element. Is there any doubt about nucleophile and electrophile? Is this clear?
Yes, madam. This is clear.
Okay. Then how we will show the movement of electrons? We know that there are two type of bonds that we are using. Mostly in the reactions we are using ionic reactions. Mostly we are using two-headed arrow that shows the movement of two electrons. And in radical reactions we will use fishhook arrow or single-headed arrow that shows the movement of single electron or one electron. So whenever we are using curly arrows, it represents the movement of pair of electrons. From where? From a filled orbital to a empty orbital. So the movement of electrons is always from filled orbital to the empty orbital. Then like the tail will move from electron rich source towards, and head will point towards the electron deficient source. For example, when hydroxide will react with proton, so hydroxide having a negative charge on oxygen, so electrons will move from oxygen towards the proton that is positively charged or having empty orbital and does not have any electron. So the new sigma bond is shown here, leading to the formation of water on reaction of hydroxide ion with proton. Similarly, if we have diethyl ether that is acting as nucleophile and BF3 having an empty p orbital, so the ether can attack the empty p orbital of boron, leading to the formation of this coordinate bond having positive charge on oxygen that is donating the electron and negative charge on boron that is accepting the electron. And because both the two electrons are provided by one of the atom in the sigma bond formation, that's why we are showing charge here. Otherwise, when sigma bond was formed by sharing of electrons, that covalent bond, in that case we are not showing charges. That you should be clear. The other example, as we show the case of or the reaction of dimethyl sulfide that is acting as nucleophile having lone pair of electrons on the sulfur, reacting with bromine inducing the charges or dipole in the case of bromine. So sulfur will react with one of the bromine, so other bond it should break, and it leads to the formation of this new sigma bond between the sulfur and the bromine. Similarly, ammonia can react with HBr. So nitrogen having lone pair of electron can accept a proton, and then the previous bond between the hydrogen and bromine will break, leading to the formation of this bromide ion and ammonium ion. So this is the way to use curly arrows. So curly arrows start from the negative charge, a lone pair or a bond, and ends at the electrons or the point where electrons are moving. Then while writing the mechanism, firstly you have to find out which species will act as nucleophile and which species will act as electrophile. Then you have to show the movement of electrons from the electron rich species towards the electron deficient species. For example, if we are treating methyl iodide with triphenyl phosphine, then in this case, as we know that phosphorus having a lone pair of electron will act as nucleophile here, and methyl iodide having electronegativity difference between the iodide and carbon, dipole will be there in this molecule. So this positively charged, partially positively charged carbon will act as the electrophile here. So as we know what is our nucleophile, what is the electrophile in the reaction, then we will start moving the electrons or using the curly arrows. So the curly arrows we will show from the lone pair of phosphorus towards the methyl carbon, and then the initially formed bond will be broken because carbon can't be pentavalent. So the electrons will move towards the more electronegative atom, that is iodine in this case, so leading to the formation of this phosphorus carbon bond and then iodide. And if we treated it further with NaOH or anything, any base, then it leads to the formation of your Wittig ylide. Ylide is the species having positive and negative charge on the adjacent atoms. So this is your methyl ylide. That we will use for Wittig reaction. If someone does not know about Wittig reaction, so Wittig reaction is the reaction of your carbonyl carbon with this ylide, leading to the formation of olefin. Okay, so such kind of species will participate in Wittig reaction, or this is the reactive species that leads to the formation of olefin from the carbonyl carbon. Now let us discuss about alkenes. So what type of reaction it will show? Mainly we will discuss about the electrophilic addition of alkenes. So the simple unconjugated alkenes are nucleophile, and the orbital that is participating in of the orbitals of alkene that is participating in the reaction is the pi orbital. So HOMO is your filled pi orbital in case of alkenes. If we are treating it with halogen, like bromine in this case, so nucleophile will attack the bromine and the bromide ion will release. Similarly, if we have your alkene and we are treating it with bromine, then the pi orbital of the alkene will react sigma star orbital of your bromine, and then the sigma bond will break, leading to the formation of bromide ion. So the LUMO is your empty sigma star orbital and HOMO is your filled pi orbital. Then once the carbocation will generate here, so if this alkene will react with one of the bromine, then positive charge will come at the center where electrons are moved towards the other carbon. So then the bromide ion that is released in this process will react with that carbocation carbon and leads to the formation of 1,2-dibromoethane. So if we saw the bigger picture, what happened in this reaction? Bromine bond or bromine molecule get adds to the alkene. And as we know that the highest electron density in the pi orbital is in the middle. So we will show the movement of electrons from the middle of the pi bond towards the sigma star orbital. And in this case, the species that is generated is your bromonium ion. That is the three-membered ring having bromine as one of the atom, bearing a positive charge. So this is the intermediate that is formed in this reaction. Now, three-membered rings are already stained and bromine is bigger enough that it will increase the strain in this molecule. So, this bromonium ion will act as the electrophile and want any nucleophile to open it. So, how it will attack? So, firstly, the alkene will react with bromine, leading to the formation of bromide ion and bromonium ion, and bromide ion will release. Now it will act as the nucleophile and do SN2 attack from the backside of this bromonium ion and leading to the formation of this 1,2 addition product. So in this case, the LUMO is your empty sigma star orbital of that CBr bond, and HOMO is your filled n orbital or filled lone pair non-bonding orbital of the bromide ion. So in this way, this overlap will take place, or electrons will move from non-bonding orbital toward the sigma star orbital of the CBr bond, and 1,2 addition product will form. And as it is a SN2 reaction, so inversion of configuration will takes place. Now, electrophilic addition of protons, how it will takes place to an alkene. If we are taking cyclohexene and we are reacting it with HBr, so we know bromide, in case of HBr, bromine is electronegative in nature, so pull the electron density towards itself. Hydrogen being electron deficient in the case of HBr. So the pi electrons will attack this positively or partially positively charged hydrogen, and the HBr bond will break in such a way that electrons will move towards the electron negative species, that is bromine here. So once this carbocation will generate, then the bromide ion that is released in the first step will attack this carbocation and leads to the formation of cyclohexyl bromide. So what will happen in this reaction? Your alkene is, or your HBr is adding on the alkene. Hydrogen on one carbon, bromide on another carbon. As this is this symmetrical alkene, so only one product we will get. But if electrophilic addition reaction will takes place with the unsymmetrical alkene, how the outcomes will change, let us discuss about that. So in the case of styrene, if we are treating it with HBr, so what are the two possibilities that we have to see first? In the case of styrene, the two possibilities are alkene will react with hydrogen. So hydrogen can attach to the less substituted carbon, or it can attach towards the more substituted carbon. So if a proton was coming at the less substituted side, so the secondary carbocation will generate. And if hydrogen comes at the more substituted side, then primary carbocation will generate. And as we know, secondary carbocation is more stable than the primary carbocation, so the major product will proceed through the formation of secondary carbocation. Now once the secondary carbocation is formed, then bromide ion will attack that secondary carbocation, leading to the formation of this more substituted bromide. Okay, and this unstable carbocation, that is the primary carbocation, will not participate in the reaction. Is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. One similar example is of your isobutene. When you are treating isobutene with HPR, in this case also, one of the carbocation is generated is primary and other one is tertiary. So tertiary will results in the major product formation, and primary will like that product is minor or will not form. Then the Markovnikov rules will decide the major product of your electrophilic addition of HX to the alkenes, and it states that hydrogen ends up attached to the carbon of the double bond that had more hydrogens to start with. That means hydrogen will go on that carbon of the double bond that is having more number of hydrogen. Or in simple words, we can say the addition of proton will take place in such a way that the more stable carbocation will generate. For example, in this case, the two possibilities are if proton, in one of the case, proton will come here, positive charge will come here, and in other case, proton will come here and positive charge will come here. So this is the first case and this is the second case. In first case, your carbocation or positive charge is stabilized by resonance with the phenyl ring. But in the second case, it was not that stabilization of because of the resonance was not there. So this will lead to the formation of minor product and this leads to the formation of major product as shown here. Then other nucleophiles may also react with the cations. For example, alkenes can be treated with HCl to form alkyl chlorides, with HI to form alkyl iodides, and H2S to form thiols. So if you have this alkene and you are treating it with HCl, so possibility one is of secondary carbocation and another is of primary carbocation. So which one will give you the major product? Secondary carbocation or more stable carbocation will give you the major product. Similarly, in the case of cyclohexene, if we are treating it with HI, so the secondary carbocation will generate. This is the symmetrical alkenes. Only one of the product we will get. Then in this case, here we can get the tertiary carbocation that is more stable and leads to the formation of your thiols, that is major. Primary one will give you the minor. Also, in the case of unsymmetrical alkene, nucleophiles preferably attack more substituted carbons. So, as we saw in this case, that isopropylene case, that if proton will if we are treating it with this bromine, so in this case, bromonium ion will form. And once the bromonium ion will form, now the bromide ion can attack at the more substituted carbon or can attack at the less substituted carbon. Now on which carbon it will attack, that will be decided by the stability of the carbocation. Now this carbon bromine bond is weak because bromine is bigger uh, in size, so it will break in such a way that the carbocation that is generated after the breaking of this bond will be stable. So in one case it is tertiary, in other case it is primary, so the tertiary one is more stable. That's why we are saying that bromide ion or nucleophile will approach or attack the more substituted carbon in the case of electrophilic addition to alkenes. Similarly, if we have this cyclohexene and we are reacting it with bromine, so firstly in this case bromonium ion will form and then bromine will attack from the back side because SN2 attack is there. So we will get this anti-addition product. Similar example we can see with the decalines also. So in case of this transdecalene, firstly bromonium ion will formation of bromonium ion will takes place, then bromide will attack from the back side leading to the formation of diaxial product, that is anti product. The next aspect that we have to discuss is when halogens will react with your alkene. So the geometry of alkene will decide the diastereomers will form or enantiomers will form or meso product we will get. For example, in the case of Z2-butene, if we have, then first after the formation of bromonium ion, bromine can attack any of the carbon and from the opposite face. So if it is attacking from A face, then we will get this product, and if it is attacking at the B carbon, then we will get this product. Now these two are mirror image of each other, and these are non superimposable mirror image of each other. So we will call them as enantiomers. Non superimposable mirror image of each other. So these are enantiomers. And if we have E-butene, in this case also, firstly bromonium ion will form, then your bromide ion can attack at one of the carbon A or B. Now in this case, the species formed is like they have a plane of symmetry in between. Because of that, these compounds are meso. Is this clear? Any doubt? This meso compound in enantiomers, diastereomers that we have already discussed in the previous classes. If your compounds are non-superimposable mirror image of each other, then they are enantiomers. And if the compound has a plane of symmetry inside the molecule about which the molecule can rotate and give the same mirror image, then we will call it as meso compounds. Okay. Then the bridging of bromine, or when the bromonium ion will form, then the rotation is prevented. That's why we are saying that the backside attack will takes place. So in because of that, the major and minor product we will get. For example, in the case of this compound, if we are treating it with bromine, then bromonium ion will form, and then bromide will attack at any of the carbon, leading to the formation of, now in this case, the bromonium ion that is formed, let us form this bromonium ion will form. Now the bromide ion will attack the carbon that is where the carbocation is stable. So it will break in such a way that the carbocation that is generated next to the phenyl ring is more stable. So the upcoming bromide ion will come that side where the carbocation is stable, that is next to the phenyl. So in this case, your one of the product is 72%, other is the 28%. Similarly, in this case, when this is your Z alkene and this is your E alkene. So because of the prevented rotation of the because of the formation of the bromonium ion, rotation got prevented, and this major and minor product was obtained in the case of Z1 phenyl propene and E1 phenyl propene. Now, if we have to decide the rate of reaction of alkenes with bromine in methanol, so we can say as the substitution on the alkene will increase, so the number of hyperconjugating structure will increase. And as the number of hyperconjugating structure increases, so stability will increase or reactivity will increase. So if we are moving from unsubstituted alkene towards the tetra substituted alkene, then the rate of reaction will increase. As the number of hyperconjugating structure will increase, its reactivity will increase, because the electron density on the uh, this alkene will increase, and its tendency to donates its pi electron to any electrophilic species will increase. In case of phenyl substituted double bond, you will get syn addition on the bromination. Now, why is it so? Because the phenyl substituent will break the bromide, this carbon bromine bond in the first case, so the carbocation will generate. Now, rotation is possible about this carbon carbon sigma bond, and because of that, other bromonium ion can form. So whenever you have a phenyl substituent attached to the alkene, so after the the bromonium ion formation, bond can break and rotate, and we will get that cis syn addition product. Then in the case of dienes will also act as nucleophile. So they are more nucleophilic than isolated alkenes. So dienes will react with electrophile in such a manner that the more stabilized carbocation will form. For example, in this case, if we are forming carbocation after the abstraction of proton, this tertiary carbocation will form, and that is allylic also. So whenever a nucleophile will come, so it will attack in such a way that this more substituted alkene will form. So in the case of your dienes, more substituted alkene will form, or more stable alkene will form. This also depends on the temperature. At higher temperature, when the enough energy was there, like for the bond for this attack, or for crossing the activation energy barrier, then more stable alkene is favored or major. But at lower alkene, when you don't have that much energy to cross the energy barrier and get towards the major, that more stable product, so in that case less stable alkene is the major product. For example, if we are treating with cyclobutadiene, this butadiene with bromine in the heating condition, then the more stable, that is more substituted alkene will form. But if we are doing this same reaction at 0 degrees Celsius, in that case 1,2 dibromo compound will we will get. Okay, that is the kinetic product, and this is the thermodynamic product. Thermodynamic product leads to the formation of stable product, and kinetic product leads to the formation of comparatively unstable product. Okay, so this is all about the topics that they have discussed. Now let us come towards the questions. So this is your first question. You will answer first and then we will discuss. Which among the following is not a structural isomer of the compound C6H12? Find out the molecular formulas of all the compound and then decide which one of this is the not a structural isomer, having same molecular formula but different structure. Tell me your options. In the first case, number of carbons is 6 and protons are 10. Correct? In the second case, number of carbons is again 6 and protons are 12. Then for the third case, we have 6 carbon atoms and protons are 12. In the last case also, carbons are 6 and protons are 12. So on the basis of molecular formula, we can find out that your first structure is not the structural isomer of the compound C6H12 because it has different molecular formula. And structural isomers are those isomers that have same molecular formula but different connectivity of the substituents. So the correct option for this case is option 1. Any doubt?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then let's move on towards the second question. So, EZ isomer you have to find out. I will tell you about the rules and then we will discuss. In any alkene, if you have different substituents, let us suppose A, B, C, D. So, on one of the carbon atom, you have to give numbers or priorities 1 or 2. Same for the second carbon. Now, the priority will be decided on the basis of their atomic number. Least priority will be given to the atom that is having higher atomic number, then second priority to the atom that is having lower atomic number. So in then if same priority group are on the same side of the double bond, then we will call it as Z, and if they are at the opposite side of the double bond, then we will call them as E. So this is your Z isomer, this is your E isomer. Is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, for this carbon, what should be the priorities? First priority will be given to
CH2OH.
CH2OH. As first atom that is attached directly to that carbon is carbon only, that will not decide. So the next atom we will move here. All three are hydrogen. Here one is oxygen that is having higher atomic number. So this is your first, and this will give the second priority. Then for this carbon, first priority will be given to
Chlorine.
chlorine. Chlorine or sulfur?
Chlorine.
Chlorine. And second one will be given to sulfur. So, as both priority groups are on the same side of the double bond, so this is Z.
Z.
So, the correct option is option 2. Is this fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then the next question is, which alkene give the meso compound upon reaction with bromine in the dichloromethane? So if you have Z2-butene, so the same priority groups should be on the same side. So this is the case. If we are treating it with bromine, then bromonium ion will form. Let us suppose it is forming above the plane. Then other bromide ion will come and attack from the back side. So we have methyl above, here bromide above. So this is your bromine and here this is your hydrogen. So this is the case. And if it is attacking this side, then this is your bromine, this is your bromine. It will go up, this will go down. Now, if we will write in such a way that your both methyls are on same side, so if this is your methyl and this is your methyl, then one of the bromine is above and one of the bromine is down. And in other case, your this is your bromine and this is your bromine. So as there is no plane of symmetry in this molecule, so these are enantiomers of each other, not these are enantiomers of each other, not mesopair. In the case of E-butene, firstly that bromonium ion will form, then bromide ion will attack. Now if we will draw it in such a way that methyls are coming down, so this will go up, this is below, and this will also go up, and this is below. So in this case we have a mirror plane about which rotation is possible. So this will leads to the formation of meso compound. So your E2-butene will give meso compound, but Z2-butene and other compounds will not give meso compound. Is this clear?
Okay, ma'am.
Next question is, what is the major organic product obtained from,
Madam, previous question one doubt.
sorry, yeah,
Previous question one. Can you read the question, madam? Which alkene gives meso compound upon reaction with
bromine,
bromine in
DCM,
dichloro?
methane.
Where is the dichloromethane?
Dichloromethane is an organic solvent. It will not participate in the reaction. Whenever you have a aqueous solution, a solvent that can participate, that has lone pair of electron, that only can participate and leads to the formation of that hydroxyl addition product. But DCM will not participate in such kind of reaction.
Where you can write the DCM?
It is a solvent. We will take that, like, anytime you did any organic reaction, I will tell you
I
the
know.
general setup, that if we are taking up RB and we will first take DCM and then dissolve our compound, that alkene, in that solvent to dissolve that this reactant alkene, and then dropwise we will add bromine. So DCM will not participate in this reaction,
Like in a catalyst.
just a solvent to dissolve the compound, to provide the
Fine.
medium for reacting or for coming that bromine and the alkene closer.
Fine. Okay, ma'am.
If we will do this reaction in water, then water can participate because oxygen has lone pair of electrons and it has some affinity towards the electrophile, sorry, that alkene.
Okay, madam. Carry on.
The next question is, what is the major organic product obtained from the following reaction? So what is the first step? So
Addition of
Bromonium
bromonium
ion
ion
formation.
will form. So let us
addition.
suppose one is this methyl and bromonium ion will form in such a way, and other possibility is your methyl will go down and bromonium ion will form above the plane. Correct? Now, your bromide ion will attack at the more substituted carbon, because the partial positive charge that is formed after the breaking of this carbon bromine bond will lead to the formation of more stable carbocation, and that is the major product. So here both products are possible, that bromine can attack here or bromine can attack at other site. And in both the cases, backside attack will takes place. That means inversion of center will takes place. So here the two products that are possible. Sorry, they are doing that reaction in water. So now, because the carbocation that is generated is surrounded by water, so attack chances of attack of water is more, so water will participate in the second step. If this same reaction will takes place in DCM, then bromide ion will attack, but because this reaction is taking place in water that can act as the nucleophile, so water will participate in this reaction. So now if water will attack, so it will form this product. And for the other case, similarly here your methyl is below, bromine is up, and here oxygen will come from, or hydroxyl will come from downside. Similarly, if carbon, it is attacking the carbon having methyl, so it invert the stereochemistry of methyl and comes opposite towards the bromine. And in all the cases, your anti-product will form. So the major product is where the hydroxyl group is attacking the more substituted carbon. So this is your major product in this case, and this is your major product in this case. So this is your product third and fourth. So the correct option is third and fourth.
Fourth.
Clear?
Okay, ma'am.
No doubt, right?
No, ma'am.
Kasturi, is this clear to you?
Clear.
Okay. Then the next question is, what type of reaction mechanism accounts for the reaction of alkene with HBr to give an alkyl bromide? So if we have an alkene, and we are treating it with HBr. So what is the first step? Your alkene will react with the proton and bromide ion will release. So in this case, bromide ion will release and formation of carbocation will takes place. Then in the second step, that bromide ion will react with the carbocation carbon and leads to the formation of this product. So in this case, alkene is acting as a nucleophile and HBr is acting as a electrophile. So this is the addition is taking place, and first addition of electrophile is taking place. So this is the electrophilic addition reaction. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Next question is, what is the major organic product obtained from the following reaction? What is the first step?
Addition of
Addition.
H plus.
H plus. So abstraction of proton. So alkene will react with hydronium ion to abstract the proton and release water. So here H will come and secondary carbocation will form, not primary carbocation. Now, in this case, as methyl shift is possible and that leads to the formation of more stable tertiary carbocation, so shift will take place. 1,2 shift will take place. So this methyl will shift from carbon 1 to carbon 2 and it leads to the formation of a tertiary carbocation, and then water will attack at that carbon, leading to the formation of major product. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. So the correct answer is option 4. So the major product
Fourth.
in this is fourth. And the reaction takes place through 1,2 methyl shift.
Methyl shift.
Why that shift happen? Because of the formation of
More stable carbocation.
carbocation.
Responding carbocation more stable.
Yeah. Then the reaction in question 6 goes via. Tell me which of the option is correct. Cyclic carbocation
One-
intermediate.
1,2 methyl
1,2
shift.
methyl shift and formation of tertiary carbocation.
Correct. 1,2 methyl shift and the formation of tertiary carbocation. Then the energy profile diagram of the reaction in question 6 will have the following number of transition state. Let us discuss about the mechanism first. So we have this alkene. So firstly, it will react with proton. So the first transition state will look like alkene bond will break and one new bond will form with the proton. So this is your first transition state will look like. Then after that, the intermediate form is H will come here, positive charge will come here. So this is your first intermediate. Then shift will take place. 1,2 methyl shift will take place.
Methyl shift.
So the transition state for this step will look like, so this is the methyl and positive charge will come here. So this is your second transition state. Then the intermediate is this one. So this is your second intermediate. Then next, water will approach towards this carbocation. So the third transition state will look like this. So this is your third transition state. And then product will form after the removal of that H positive ion. So the energy profile diagram will look like, if we are plotting energy against reaction coordinate. So first, so 3 transition state are there, 2 intermediate are there. So number of transition states are 3.
3.
Is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next question is select the E1 bromo 1 chloropropene. Let us start giving numbers. In this case, this carbon, which one will give first priority, bromine or chlorine?
Bromine 1, chlorine 2.
Bromine 1, chlorine 2. This carbon,
Methyl.
Methyl 1,
hydrogen.
hydrogen 2.
So this is Z or E?
Z.
Z. So this is, and this we will give 1, this is 2, and this is 3. That IUPAC numbering. So this is Z, 1 bromo, 1 chloro, propene.
Propene.
Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Then second, bromine 1, chlorine 2, methyl 1, hydrogen 2. This is
E.
E.
1 bromo, 1 chloro.
1 chloropropene.
So your correct option is option B.
B.
Let us do for others also. So in this case, first priority will be given to
Bromine.
bromine,
Bromine.
second to hydrogen, first to chlorine,
Chlo-
second to
chlorine and then hydrogen.
hydrogen. This is
E.
E. Name is
1
first
bromo.
bromo, second
1 bromo, 2 chloro,
1 bromo,
ethene.
yeah, 1 bromo, 2 chloro, ethene.
Ethene.
Correct. Last one, this bromine is 1, hydrogen is 2,
2.
fluorine is
1.
1,
Methyl
this
is 2.
2. So this is Z,
Z.
1 bromo, 2 chloro.
2 chloro.
Propene. Propene.
Propene.
Is this fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then the next question is in the following reaction, the product A and B are. What is the first step?
Addition of brominium.
Brominium or proton?
Attack of proton
Attack of alkene on the proton.
on the proton.
Yeah. So the first, after the abstraction of proton, carbocation will generate. Now your bromide ion can attack from above the plane because the carbocation that is generated is sp2 hybrid.
sp2
The
hybridized.
p orbital, empty p orbital can be approached from the above side and can be approached from the below side.
Below side.
So
Two-way
it's
possibility.
top, and let us consider one from the back downside. So in one case, if your bromine is approaching from top, so hydrogen will be down, and in another case, your bromine will be approached from down and hydrogen will be up. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now these are enantiomers,
Enantiomers.
diastereomers, constitutional isomers, or what?
Dash to MS.
How many pseudo centers are there?
What, ma'am?
How many chiral centers are there?
Only one.
One chiral center.
And diastereomers are possible if two chiral centers are
Two
there.
chiral centers are there.
Yeah, so diastereomer is not the option. Identical? Are these molecules identical?
Yes, madam.
No. No.
Identical, but
No, enantiomers will form.
enantiomers. They are mirror image of each other, and the mirror images are non-superimposable on each other. If we have one chiral center,
One chiral center.
stereochemistry is opposite at both the centers. That means if one is R, other will be S.
S.
So these are enantiomers of each other. Okay.
Okay, madam.
Okay, ma'am.
So the correct option is option B. That's all for today. Now you can leave. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Madam, kindly upload the third week, fourth week, re-upload the video, madam,
Okay.
if possible.
Yeah, I will check. Thank you.
Thank you.